Hey there guys, we got a deck profile here of the Floowandereeze deck that I've been using recently at the local tournaments around here. I have won all of them with the deck so far, I think 3 or 4 now. The build hasn't changed too much except that I'm off the Dogmatica engine now. I didn't think it was very good and I'd rather have cards like Dimension Shifter in the main deck to help out the decks that this deck struggles with, like Virtual World. And it blanketly hits the meta fairly well, so we're just going to go on and get into it. I like this list. I think this is probably one of the better ones out there. So to start, we got 3 Robina. This is the only one that actually lets you play, so you have to play 3 of it. And we do have 3 Eagles still, even though I don't like this card. You don't get to play with this one, but if you open this in map, then you do get to play. So just play 3 of it to maximize your chances of seeing it. And 2 of the other ones because you actually don't get to play with these, but they are very good for the grind game, so the only reason you play them. And then for the big monsters and the monsters we're searching, we got 1 M-Pen. You don't need more than 1 if you manage your resources correctly, or if you just banish it to get it back with Toucan. Ryza, this card is absurd. Avion, this card sucks, but you play it. The statue, this card's also really bad right now because everybody's playing Chalice and Droplet, but again, you kind of have to play it. You force them to have it. If they don't, then you kind of win. And I'm playing a DD Crow. The idea with this is you don't always get to open Shifter. So if you open a redundant amount of the Floowandereeze, you can at least search this and have an out to cards like Destroyer Phoenix, which this deck struggles very hard against because this deck is a simplistic deck, and Destroyer Phoenix punishes the simplistic decks for existing. So being able to have a searchable out to Destroyer Phoenix is really nice. Plus, it's just a good hand trap in general. I thought about playing 2 of it, but I didn't want to go above 41, which is what I'm currently at. So we're just playing the 1 for now, but it's possible to go up. For the other monsters, you got 3 Shifter. This card is broken. It's the best card in the format, in my opinion, other than Dark Ruler, because this literally just says skip your opponent's turn depending on what they're playing, and that's good enough. And then the other monster hand trap we're playing is 2 Ash. The reason we're playing 2 is because we're playing Crossout Designator, and that is just weak already. So you don't really feel bad about drawing 1, but you don't want to see multiples. You want to leave 1 in the deck for Crossout because this deck does fold to Ash. That's it for the monsters. The spells, we got 4 copies of the map. Originally, I was only playing 3 copies. I was playing 2 in a terraforming, but in a lot of games, I realized that you just need the 3rd. You just need to see this card because this card lets you play on both players' turns much easier. And being able to normal summon it all the time on your opponent's turn is just kind of unfair. 1 of the Unexplored Winds. This card is also something I wanted to bump up because just drawing this naturally is obscene. You get to mulligan if you didn't open Extravagance, which is really good because you have a lot of bricky hands, because this could put back the tribute summons as well. But importantly is it lets you out trouble monsters or floodgates, just things like that. And then we got the 3 Crossout Designator. I don't think there's a substitute for this card. I know people want to have a budget alternative, but I really think that the $50 is worth it for each of them for this deck. It's just such a good card. You need it. It's just more copies of Called by the Grave, and in some situations it's more copies of Goldstark, which is why these are here with it. Because if your hand is really bad and you can't play, and it didn't matter, you can just use this to exile a name at the end of your opponent's turn, and you can banish like Robin, and then you can normal summon any of them, and then start playing, and it just lets you play. And then Called by, everybody knows what this does by now. For the pots, we're playing 3 Extravagance, 3 Duality. You have to play 6. And I would play Prosperities if I owned them over this, but there have been a lot of scenarios where this has just been better than Prosperity when I've tested with it online. So I don't really think there's a big difference. It's just as long as you have 6. And then the last spell is 3 Book of Moon. You could cut this to 2 and keep it at 40 cards if you wanted to. But the 41st card in the deck was actually just the other map, or an Ash. So I would cut one of those instead of the 3rd book, but I know a lot of people like 2 of this because it is cloggy. but you can just end your opponent's turn with this card as well, and you can also just protect your monsters from Imperm and Chalice, which are very popular right now. For traps, you got one of this, the Dreaming Town. Card's phenomenal. I never resolved the bottom effect, but in theory, it comes up. And then the last trap is just 3 infinite impermanents. Gotta play it. And the extra deck does not matter. This is my Dogmatica extra deck, which was 3 copies of Farragut, 3 copies of Shrig, 3 copies of Entis, because like I said, we were playing Dogmatica. And to go with those had these 2. These actually, this does literally nothing in the deck, but there's no reason to take it out because, again, you don't use it. And the actual only cards you make are these. This is the incorrect Liter Risk rank 1 to play. I just don't have the other one, but it doesn't matter because, again, you'll never make it. But in the scenarios where you could, this is the other one is correct. And then, again, you'll never make it, so it doesn't matter. I don't need to explain anything. And then, as everything falls, the side deck is the worst part about this deck in my opinion, but it's worked for my area, so. 3 Ghost Ogre. This card is actually absurd. This format. It's also very good as a crossout because you can lose to this card on the map, and you can lose to this card on the M-Pen, or just any of your other cards that matter, obviously. So Ghost Ogre is good. It's very punishing for my local area, which is why I play it. 3 Sphere modes. The cool thing with this card is M-Pen, and the only reason I would ever consider playing a second is M-Pen lets you normal summon any monster. So if you do this on your opponent's turn, you can tribute 3 of their monsters on their turn in the middle of their combo. It's something I've not done when I was playing one of this, so bringing it up is irrelevant here, but it is something cool you can do if you play 2 M-Pen, which I know a lot of people like, so figured I'd point that out. It is really cool to just, in the middle of your opponent's combo, get rid of all of it. 3 Twin. I need an out to Zombie World and just other floodgates. Most of them don't really matter, but they're just more annoyance than anything, because the best thing you can do against things like there can only be one in Rivalry, you just set your monster and then use the spell to remove it. But Zombie World is actually unremovable for this deck, so I'm thinking about putting in more copies of Spell and Trap Destruction, like Lightning Storm, or just Feather Duster and just Cosmics. But you need to play at minimum 3 Spell Trap Destruction cards. 3D Barrier from when you go first against Sword Soul in Virtual World, which are the deck's 2 hardest matchups. So having a skip your turn for them is really nice because Shifter doesn't actually do anything to Sword Soul, so you just easy side these out, a Shifter out for these. And then against Virtual World is still a skip turn, so. And then the last card I'm playing is another going first card, is lose 1 turn. If you don't have any special summon monsters, all special summon monsters come on the field in defense mode with their effects negated. So you can just shut off opponent's combo turns with this. This is probably the worst card in the side deck, and I would recommend cutting it for Spell Trap Destruction depending on what your area plays. But for me, it works very nicely because a lot of my players are combo players. And if you can just shut them out for a turn, then you don't kill them, but you set them back so hard and you can give them their bricks back with Mega Ryza, and you just loop it over and over again until they give up. And that is it for the deck profile. Like I said, I have won all the local tournaments with this deck since its release. I really do enjoy it, and it's only going to get better with the next support. And the next set, whatever it's called, Battle of Chaos, I think. It's fun, it's pretty interactive, and even though it's simplistic, it is hard to play in some points because if you miss sequence, then you just end your turn. But that's it for the deck profile. If you guys liked it, remember to comment, rate, subscribe, and we'll be back with more videos eventually. Thanks for watching.